Good afternoon. I want to thank everybody who joins us. My name is Olga Atamanova, and I'm happy to see you here in Ukraine Media Center Ukrinform. It's been 9 years of the war, and today is day 400 of the full-scale invasion of our homeland by the Russian aggressor. And I traditionally want to thank the representatives of all the mass media who tell the world the truth about our heroic resistance and our fight for freedom. Now I want to introduce to you our speaker. It's Vasyl Bodnar, Ukraine's ambassador extraordinary in Plenipotentiary to Turkey. Good afternoon, Mr. Vasyl. Good afternoon. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to the heroes. Mr. Vasyl, I would like to start a conversation with the grain deal. There was a lot of negotiations and discussions. We were tracking all of those processes. What's going on behind the grain deal? What it is going to look like this year? Well, the grain deal is very important for the economy of Ukraine. Its extension is the key interest of the Ukrainian state. The agreement was extended for another term, another period. We think that the agreement is extended for 120 days, as it was contemplated before. There is a speculation by Russian side that they want to review, reconsider the extension period and to make it 60 days. Is their attempt to manipulate the public opinion and the opinion of the mediators. We've seen the statement by the Secretary General of the United Nations that the deal is extended for 120 days. There is a clear stance by the Turkish side that they view the agreement as extended for 120 days. We know that there are parliamentary and presidential elections going on in Turkey, and this is what all the attention is drawn to in Turkey. In fact, the agreement so far doesn't operate to the full extent, to the extent we would like it to operate, because the Russian party keeps restricting the passage of the vessels through the Turkish straits, and the inspections they do not allow passing the vessels in the necessary amount. Well, it's only from 2 to 6 vessels being inspected on the daily basis, and dozens other ships are awaiting for the passage either on their way to the ports of Odessa or out of them in the Black Sea. But we still have the guarantee that within the next period the agreement will be in effect, and for our agrarians and transporters there is a guarantee that there is a safe passage for our grain products to the international markets. Mr. Vasyl, today the Ukrainian mass media discusses the news, the statement by Mr. Erdogan about visit of Putin to the Turkey on the 27th of April. Can you give us a couple of comments about this event? Well, let's start with our narrative. Who's Putin for us? He's the war criminal who would better travel to The Hague rather than to other countries or other capitals. Yes, there was such information in the mass media that probably there might be a visit or an online meeting. There is a specific context about it, because there is a nuclear power plant being built in Turkey, and on 27th of April they plan to load the nuclear fuel to their nuclear power plant. So I think that there are still options for such visit being discussed. We work on those matters. I mean, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they rather have an assumption or expectation of such visit than the confirmation. We've heard that for the time being there is no official information about preparation of such visits, so the official stance will be promulgated shortly. For what we understand, Turkey has not ratified the Rome Statute, and even if Putin visits them, he would not be arrested. Is that correct? Yes, Turkey is not a signatory or is not a party to the International Criminal Court. They had not ratified the Rome Statute, but as any country which respects the international law, communication with such countries as Russia has a very sensitive nature for Ukraine, and behind the closed doors during the communication with the Turkish partners, we communicate our position to them, and we keep working with the Turkish party to reach relevant solution, and we'll see how it works for us. What's Turkish reaction to the peace plan proposed by China? Well, as we reiterated a couple of times, Turkey is the only international partner who was able to bring Russia and Ukraine as a parties of the conflict to the negotiations table. They have clear understanding that Ukraine is a victim to the aggression and Russia is the aggressor. So what was proposed by the Chinese party is subject to negotiations, and while that peace plan was proposed, it was seen as an attempt to reiterate the Chinese stance that they were expressing before, and also they were trying to dispute the intermediary services provided by the Turkish partners. It may become a stimulus even to continue taking efforts for formation of the position, for creation of more active position of Ankara in negotiations and communication with other partners. We've recently heard the official position of Turkey that they support the territorial integrity of Ukraine, but still they want to continue looking for a peaceful way of reconciliation, peaceful way of ending the conflict. So we continue communicating our position to the Turkish party to translate our words into actions and their words into actions. Turkish took an active stance on returning our prisoners of war, for taking them away from the aggressor country. Do we have any new achievements in that area? Well, the dialogues between the commissioners for human rights is still underway to create a humanitarian corridor which would allow to free our prisoners of war. First of all, those injured and non-injured, and our civilians who end up as prisoners of war in Russia. They all need to get back to their homes through the territory of Turkey as an option. There is no still framework for these negotiations. There are sensitive moments, such like children, in this dialogue. So we're trying to look some contact points. We've heard that the resolution of International Criminal Court, the warrant was issued with regard to Putin and their Russian Commissioner for Children's Rights for deportation of Ukrainian children. That's a very sensitive topic which has its prospects, so we continue working on that matter, looking for ways of solution. Dear colleagues, if you have any questions, please go ahead. Yes, Ukrinform, Ivan Kosakin. Mr. Ambassador, you mentioned the election process in Turkey. We understand that after everything what happened in that country, foreign policy is on the second plan, but during those elections, what is the position of other presidential candidates, the oppositioner Kemal Kılıç, Deloglu? What is his stance in relation to Ukraine and other matters of foreign policy? Thank you for the question. Look, there are state interests that Turkish political forces stand for jointly. So national interests are being protected by both government and opposition. Everybody has their own understanding, but you have to dig deeper in what is fundamental for the Turkish state. And just like the founder of the Turkish state, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, stated, the respect to themselves and respect to others and healthy nationalism are the fundamentals of the modern Turkish state. This is why the political forces, they stand for strategic relations between Turkey and Ukraine to be developed further on. There are some corrections possible on that way of the development of our relations, but generally the policy will be pro-Ukrainian, and everybody says that the war is unacceptable for the international society. But on the other hand, we have to take into account that there are not only interests to support Ukraine, but there is also an interest in developing the trade is another important factor that influences the position of both government and opposition. I mean, the development of transport, communication and trade and energy with Russian Federation, that's the pragmatic component of cooperation with Russian Federation. So the businesses and government are quite intertwined in Turkey, and in any case they will press on either government or opposition to stand for their business interests. They have business interests both in Russia and Ukraine. Before the war, Ukrainian-Turkish relations and Turkish-Russian relations were different trends that did not overlap, but now they all cause reaction, specifically in Ukraine. For example, in case of any communications between Turkish and Russian parties, there is a part, the fraction of interest, some opinion and attention paid to such business relations anyway, but now all the attention of the Turkish society is focused on the elections, on the election campaign, and another part of the attention is being paid on mitigation of consequences of the earthquake. So I wouldn't say that it has any negative influence on current positions of the government. For Ukraine, I think that no matter what will be the government in Turkey, the strategic interest will prevail anyway. Dear colleagues, Mr. Vasyl, thank you for joining our broadcast. I'm reminding you, dear colleagues, joining us was Vasyl Bodnar, Ambassador, Plenipotentiary and Extraordinary of Ukraine to Turkey. Our next briefing is at 16:30. We plan to present the collection of works by Grigory Skovoroda to commemorate the philosopher's 300th birthday. The presentation will be made by Alexander Tkachenko. So bear with us, work together for our victory and glory to Ukraine.